So have you heard of oxygen bathing?
No.
Can't say
So,
no.
so as we know that oxygen is obviously an important part of our lives, and there's like, athletes will do it with oxygen masks, and you can drink liquid oxygen now. Like there's oxygen infused into waters and stuff like that. There's different things. There is I think it was out of Hungary, they started doing oxygen bathing. And now there's like 3 or 4 institutes in the US doing it, where they're finding where you just go into these insane sessions of sitting in, I don't know how it's done, but just a pure oxygen environment is killing cancer. It's like,
Wow.
yeah. And the idea is, as we get older, and this is why I was thinking of this, as we get older, parts of us start to fail, our eyes, that sort of thing. And the eyes have to do with the elasticity, right, of the membranes and stuff there. But our bodies are just less able to utilize the oxygen. And as it's less able to utilize the oxygen, it starts having other problems. If oxygen are such an important part of our body's growth and development, that if we can't utilize the oxygen as healthy as we usually could, our bodies become less efficient and therefore start having more and more and more problems. But if you could imagine being in a position where you had 100% utilization of the oxygen around you, your body may be more healthy as a result.
Well, it's interesting. So in a lot of my dive instructor training, when I got my nitrox certification, that increase, I mean, you can drown from its oxygen toxicity, whereas under pressure, your body cannot, you can't really process, you can't really take that oxygen, the higher oxygen content. And so they introduce an additional nitrox is actually a 3 mix, and lesser mixes, but you can't go deep with it. It's really an interesting thing. You can stay under the water longer with nitrox, but not at deep levels because of the way the body processes oxygen. So, I mean, I would think about like your skin with more oxygen. I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing.
It is, and like a hyperbaric chamber, of course, is when you get the bends, what they call it, when you're coming up too fast from depth, bubbles will develop in your bloodstream, and a hyperbaric chamber is a high dose of oxygen under pressure to hopefully reduce those oxygen bubbles in your bloodstream. So
yeah, it's an interesting idea. I mean, oxygen, I mean, they've been utilizing it for so many other ways that it'd be a fascinating idea if this thing works. And what I heard from a friend who has a friend in Florida whose wife was suffering from cancer, flew off to do this treatment overseas in Europe, and is cancer free.
Huh. I mean,
So,
what'd be curious is a study of people that spent a lot of time in the water versus dry. You know what I mean? Like if they spent a lot of time just in the water, and if that helps any immune
that's an interesting thing, because I've a lot of people who spent time above the water, right, who end up having cancer issues, or how many people do we know that have had desert lifestyles and had the throat cancer and things, right? Or somebody like Doug, who probably spent, who had the throat cancer, but he spent most of his time golfing and all his, right? Whereas I've very much been water whenever I could be in water, right? Grew up in the ocean, and so it's kind of an interesting thing, because it's very interesting. That's a great question. That'd be a great.
There's definitely something there with the whole pressure and how we absorb things. I mean, and even being in 3 feet of water versus 60 feet of water,
right.
I still think that there's something going on with our bodies when we're, again, our skin is just, proof of my forehead. Our skin is just this big bag over us, and how it addresses things and deals with stuff, I don't know.
Well, it's an interesting thing because it also coincides with the idea of forest bathing. And what is forest bathing is it's a very Japanese thing, and it's gotten bigger and bigger, more and more articles written out. There's an entire book written about forest bathing. It's the idea of taking your shoes off and just walking in the forest, right? Just enjoying the forest around you. Well, one of the advantages of being in an environment like a forest is the amount of oxygen being produced by the trees around you,
Yeah.
going to the rainforest, the amount of oxygen being produced, or even if you've seen people who build arborariums in their homes
Mhm.
where they do creative work there. I know, one famous author, that's where he wrote his books, was always in the arborarium because and it was just tons of plants in there because high generation of oxygen being produced, it made him more creative, supposedly more
Interesting.
thoughtful. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking about like Hemingway and these guys who spent all this time on the coast.
Mm,
Heavens, Jimmy Buffett, like who spent time at sea level versus altitude, even like that
right.
difference in oxygen, starvation,
Oh, I
depression.
wonder. Like, that's a great question. So, is there a higher rate of cancer, say, in Denver, than there
Right,
would
at
be
a
in San
higher altitude.
Francisco, or LA? I mean, what would there be a higher
We should
rate
be
of?
scientists.
Yeah, we should be. Well, we could have been. We just chose not
We
to.
chose not to.
We chose
Yeah.
not to.
The Modern Jeeper Show, the show about Jeeps, Jeeping, and Jeepers.
Hey, Modern Jeepers. This is another episode of Modern Jeeper Show with me, Matson from MetalCloak, and Mr. Modern Jeeper, Corey Osborne.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, and Rockstar Jeep Girl, Jessy.
Hello.
Hi. Scoot over a little bit towards Corey that way, because every once in a while that little bubble pops up that says, I'm talking. And it goes right on your earring. There you go. That's better. So where are you guys at?
We are in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Just finished our Appalachia adventure with Senator Mark Maynard, Jerry Bain, John Bain, that whole crew up in West Virginia. And so people will start to see some content coming out. The hashtag is PPWV2023. So if you're searching for content, and people and even people on this trip, because they weren't paying attention long enough. PP this year, Jerry Bain designated it as petroleum and phenomenon.
Petroleum Phenomenon, West Virginia, 2023.
It's petroleum and the paranormal, if you will.
Oh,
yeah. Phenomenon, paranormal. Yeah. So petroleum and paranormal, West Virginia, 2023. Great trip. I mean, yeah, but we just got into Pigeon Forge yesterday, and this is slated to be the hottest week of the year in Pigeon Forge.
Why not?
Yes. We're all about setting records, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So you'll have the highest number of CTIs ever conducted in the highest amount of heat.
Yes.
Forge.
If we did 3, we'd set a record because it is the most we've ever done at these kind of temperature and humidity levels. No, it's
oy vey.
That ain't gonna happen.
No, we did go up and we checked out the site, and it's a big show this year again. And I think what Justin has done, and with the entire staff at Pigeon Forge, the Great Smoky Mountain Jeep Invasion, have done, is actually pretty smart. The lower level at the LeConte Center was pretty congested because there was only 2 lanes where people could actually get in and out. So there was kind of this giant middle lane and then 2 outer lanes. And Matson, you were here last year, so you kind of got a feel for that.
Right.
This year, being in the upper lot, it's funny when you look at it, because I thought that upper lot wasn't as big at all as the lower lot, but it's actually bigger. It's weird when you look at empty space. It's hard to get a size to it all, and you kind of go, will everybody fit? Looking at what they've done is moving it up to the upper deck. All the parking is left for the LeConte Center outside down below. So it's still going to be indoors inside the LeConte Center. Then you'll take the walkway to come up to the outside vendor show. There's 15. I mean, the vendors this year brought their big trailers. I've seen I bet 15 53-foot trailers up there. But instead of now being down a line and kind of having it be awkward, there's like 7 lanes of that. So it's easier for them, I think, to manage. It'll be interesting to see how traffic flow goes. I'm almost certain we're going to be in the exact same spot we were in years past. I didn't get to talk to Justin today, but we got to talk to one of their gals that was kind of placing vendors, and she said, "Yeah, you guys are going to be in that same cutout." So we should be in the same spot, and we'll let everybody know if we're not.
Yeah.
So.
Well, cool. That's cool. I mean, it's gonna be fun. Lots of people, but I will give this preamble. If you're out there and you're in line, do not be surprised if the CTI shuts down for a short period of time, 10, 15 minutes, if somebody needs a break. Okay. They're going to be out there. We have people out there to make sure it keeps going, but don't get upset if they need to take a break, because it doesn't do any good if we don't have anybody running the CTI because it's too hot and everybody's collapsed from exhaustion and just shuts the whole thing down and says, sorry, we're done for the day. So let them have a little bit of a break. Make sure Corey and Jessy and Philip and
Curtis and Philip and Chris. And it's for folks that don't know, in years past, I mean, this is, we have no problem. I mean, it's funny. I put up a picture of the forecast and it's going to be like 94 degrees. And you think, well, 94, it's hot, but it's not that bad. In Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, 94 degrees. I guarantee. Well, there's already heat warnings, heat index warnings. There's a huge advisory out there. At those temperature levels, we're also talking about 80% plus humidity. So
that never shuts down.
Yeah, it becomes really heavy, and it's kind of funny, even all we put on these
cool
rags and have blowers with fans that have misters in them, but it's already so wet, it's already saturated. So we just have to slow down a little bit. And
so no ER visits. Everybody no ER. Be patient.
Yeah,
that's right.
It'd be good.
No patience. Be patient to avoid patience.
No patience. Yeah.
That being said, I'm not going to miss the heat. I am, however, going to miss going to a local goat and having deep fried deviled eggs. That's what I will miss the most. The deep fried deviled eggs.
Or 5 Oaks for breakfast. Local goat and 5 Oaks.
I never tried that. I didn't do the breakfast. I didn't do the 5 Oaks breakfast. I did the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through for the avocado toast. That was actually guacamole on toast, but I guess you can call it Mexican toast. Maybe, I don't know.
It's pre-made. Yeah. It's fine.
Yeah, they don't have avocado toast just wasn't quite right. So
5 Oaks is the home of the cinnamon roll that's about as big as your head.
My head.
Yeah.
I feel nothing but pain when you mention that.
Right.
It's like, that'll go down really good.
Yep.
That's like the cinnamon roll French toast. Oh my
God. Oh yeah, good stuff.
Their pancakes are like what, an inch thick?
Yeah, one pancake is like this fluffy pie.
Oh, yeah. That's like that's like the pancake you get if you hike Mount Whitney. And you go up to Mount Whitney and you come back down, and you're supposed to sit down and you get this pancake. And it's bigger than the plate. It hangs over the plate. And it's this giant, pour the syrup on it, cut pancake. Only reason I've had it is because I was with a group that had ascended all the way to the top and back and gave me one.
That's awesome.
You really shouldn't be the guy. You shouldn't go and order it unless you've ascended to the top. But
good segue though. With this
pancake segue.
Yeah, the pancake segue. This last hurricane that came through from Mexico and came onto the coast of California has done a bunch of damage. Again, a lot of flooding to Death Valley National Park.
Yes.
That whole area. In fact, Mount Whitney's campgrounds and stuff are shut down. There were some people up there that were stranded. And again, guys, be patient. I know there were some people out there that were traveling and exploring in the extreme heats, but they saw this cooler weather coming, and then they had these terrible floods. So Yeah, shout out to all of our friends out in Death Valley and the Rangers and all the work they do. So
That reminds me, Eric Ennis, who used to be part of my team here, was he had posted something, and I'll have to check on that. He had posted something about being on his motorcycle on Death Valley. That was like last week, whatever.
oh,
I wonder if he
Right.
stayed out there, or if he left. But I saw that or somebody mentioned it to me that he had been out there in Death Valley with his motorcycle. So I hope he's okay.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So Death Valley, Great Smoky Mountain Jeep. I always got to remember it's the Great Smoky Mountain Jeep Club Invasion.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we just
Yeah.
call it the Smoky Mountain Jeep Invasion. That's our short term. It's
That's
just like,
yeah. The
but
short
it's the
I always
Great
do the
Smoky Mountain
GSMJCI.
Club Invasion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
LGBTQ plus 35 plus.
Mhm.
and we're still a little bit we're still in a little bit of West Virginia mindset. Once again, I mean,
What's that? What does that mean? What does that mean? Moonshine and shotguns?
A little bit. I mean,
No moonshine.
that-
Didn't have any moonshine.
no moonshine. But that group is just such an amazing group of people and it's so diverse. To get to spend some time with the U.S. senator that is so focused on land.
Okay, let's
use.
clarify. Is he a U.S. senator or a state senator for West Virginia?
Oh, I'm sorry, state. Sorry.
Okay,
State.
I mentioned that before. I was like, I think he's just a
Yes.
state senator. But
Yeah,
yes.
state senator, and
Which is why
all
he's
of his-
cool. Those U.S. senators, they're not cool.
right? Well, and he's so involved in all these land use issues and does such a good job of talking to people. It was funny. We went through a couple small towns, and of course, he'd come up and introduce himself, or they knew him, and they'd come up and want to shake his hand and stuff. And it was pretty cool. He was in an XJ for the entire trip this year. Red, white, and blue. Said Maynard on the side. It was
Nice.
It was pretty great. But again, Jerry Bain has this way of finding places that nobody would ever go to, and there's so many dirt roads, so they're all also part of this dirt roads coalition.
Mhm.
And I didn't really think about what that meant. If you think about our counties, break our states down into counties, and then try and figure out how many dirt roads are in that county. Now, in the East, there are some counties that have hardly any. There's zero dirt roads, and literally those counties, governments and the anti-land use folks, they want to pave it all because it's easier to maintain. They can run literally the guys. When I talk about roads, I'm talking about something that's like 10, 12 feet wide. That is a 2-lane road in West Virginia.
Rocky, muddy, all of it.
If you come onto another car on some of these roads, there's really it's one lane basically, but you kind of squeeze around each other. But anyways, the this dirt road thought really kind of stuck with me. How many roads are in Colorado? Well, we have a lot of dirt roads, but are there many roads to get to certain places? No, it's kind of there's this road to get you to this place. In West Virginia, there could be 6 roads that are like spider webs all over these hills. It's really interesting to navigate and look at a map, look at satellite views, and try and go, well, it shows it goes through. Oh, but it actually does not go through. And a lot of these roads, if they don't get used, of course, they get overgrown. Russian olive trees are a huge threat to a lot of these trails. They grow very fast, and they'll literally take over a trail and you won't be able to drive through it. We cut down 6 or 7 trees that had fallen across the trail. So there was 4 of us, I think, that brought chainsaws. We had 3 electric saws and a gas-powered saw. And literally, we were walking up to trees, and my little DeWalt electric saw has like it's like a 10-inch bar, maybe a 12-inch bar. These trees were 2 feet across that were falling across the roads.
Wow.
So it was a little bit of work, but again, not very many people go up into these areas. So you get up there and you start cutting. And a shout out to Zach at Fox Creek Garage up in Elizabeth, West Virginia, who used to do some foresting work and made quick work with a gas saw on a lot of these large trees. Yeah,
wow.
we were thinking, we'd get up to a fallen tree and go, well, here we're going to be here for an hour and
15 minutes,
20 minutes. Man, we had that thing dissected and off the side of the road, and it was all good. But yeah, just kind of a different style of wheeling. So different than what we're used to.
So what do I need to bring with me? Well, around here you bring a chainsaw.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You don't need axes and chainsaws.
Wow.
Are more beneficial than shovels and all the other gear we have.
Yeah. The kinetic energy ropes and that kind of stuff, there is some mud, but it's not like mud we would think of. I mean, this stuff has got a hard bottom to it most of the time. There's some red clay up there that gets super, super slick, and it can be an issue, but unless you're doing some real recovery stuff, literally a chainsaw is your best friend.
That's good. Weird. Well, it can be used as a weapon. It can be used as a digging tool.
When the zombies come? Yeah.
That's right. I mean, that's funny. You just wouldn't think about that. I actually had to look up what a Russian olive tree was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hadn't seen a Russian olive tree. But yeah, interesting. So they're very much of an invasive species up there.
Yes,
very much so. It's almost like tamarisk in Colorado. Tamarisk, they can drink up to like 250 gallons. A single tamarisk plant can drink 250 gallons. I think it's in a day or some crazy number. It's a huge bane on the rivers and the streams and all of that kind of stuff in Colorado. The Russian olive is the same up here. It just grows so quick. It's like a weed, but it is a tree.
Wow. Interesting. Well, it's fascinating. Yeah, that's cool. So but you had fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, the content, like I said, will be coming out slowly. I mean, the last day we stayed near a TNT factory, a TNT plant. Point Pleasant, West Virginia, where they actually manufactured about 500,000 pounds of TNT, trinitrofluorine.
So anytime you heard a little noise at night, you went,
oh.
It's also home of the Mothman.
The Mothman.
So the Mothman Prophesies.
Oh, yes,
where the bridge collapsed. Same place.
Wow.
And then one of the TNT tanks just combusted for no reason.
They ended up finding 20,000 pounds of unexploded TNT in one of these bunkers. And when the Mothman was around during that time frame, that bunker actually exploded. And this was also a Superfund site. The government had thought they had found it all, and they had not.
The place is
I'm sorry. The government was wrong. Did we have the government was wrong?
Yeah. This TNT plant, this TNT factory was 8,000 acres.
Wow.
It's huge.
Crazy stuff. And it's all along the Ohio River.
They still make it in sticks? I mean, like,
I don't know what
I wonder actually how TNT, or are they making like plastique or like, good old fashioned sticks?
This was all military production in the 40s. And they had giant structures that have been abandoned, and you guys will just have to follow some of the content that gets released, but giant sodium tank structures, and it was all gravity fed for literally thousands of acres. I mean, bunkers
buried under trees.
It's all
hidden and
concrete walls that are 4 feet thick, and it's crazy.
That town, I have to say, had a very heavy feel to it. You could tell that there was a lot of heavy weight in that area.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, the big pipes that are whatever was coming out of the stacks producing electricity in clouds, and
there's some really big, large coal production or coal burning electricity plants on the other side of the Ohio River. Of course, this is where the bridge collapsed, the biggest bridge disaster in U.S. history. And
it was very heavy.
Yeah, it's an interesting place. It was odd.
Wow. Yeah. Hence the paranormal part of the PP. Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow, that must have been fascinating. What an incredible trip. What a
It
unique way of-
was. It was.
Yeah, that's
It
good.
is
Well,
nice for a change for us to be able to go out and we don't have to really think about where we're going. We can follow somebody else around. So
Yeah.
wait. But how hard was it for you to let go?
yeah, well, there was a little bit of research being done on the side.
Corey, sometimes you just gotta
Yeah.
let go.
It was good. It was good though. So, and it's kind of fun because, of course, using Jessy's Jeep, new Go Mammoth tent on the top, the Nacho lights,
Awning was
that thing.
amazing.
It just, and it's funny that even the XTs, we're running the Milestar XT tires, which we had a lot of questions about. In some of that really slippery mud, man, those tires do so well. And of course, it's all MetalCloak stuff. It's our bumpers, it's our suspension. The thing is it's just fun to drive.
So it's interesting. We were talking about XTs earlier with Justin, because Justin has 2 sets of tires now for his JT. He has a set of 38 XTs and he has a set of 40 MTs, right? And the 40-inch MTs are for his when he's going out wheeling, but he didn't want to just use that as a
Right.
daily driver. So he got a set.
Right.
He is so in love with those XTs.
Yep.
They do so well, and they're so quiet, and they're a great performance tire.
They really are. And we aired down. We're running really heavy, so we're running about 40 psi or so. It's a load range D tire, so it's a 50 psi tire. We're running 40, 42 on the highways, but aired down in the mud, we were only at about 30 pounds. Those tires worked so well, and of course we're heavy, we're fully loaded. So, but yeah, even in the mud and stuff, we had no
Big
problems.
ruts, big muds. We spend almost $50 in car wash trying to get the mud out.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully it was one of those ones you could just swipe the credit card on.
It was, but it only went to $10 at a time. $1 a minute. $1 a minute. So $10, $10. I'm like, wow, are we ever gonna get this mud out of there? Yeah.
I saw a TikTok hack where some guy took a magnet onto one of the old school machines that have that you put quarters in. It took a magnet to it in a certain spot and just started moving the magnet, and it just went chink, 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 chink. Like with every movement of the magnet, it counted another quarter, counted another quarter, now another quarter. I'm not advocating that. I am simply stating that that's it. I think these are small business owners that you need to give them their due. But yeah, it's just kind of funny. I saw that. But just because I'm communicating that on a media environment does not mean I'm condoning the activity.
Right.
Kind of like I was just listening to an episode of one of my podcasts where they're talking, it's like how I built this. And they're talking to Paul Orfilia, the founder of Kinko's. And he said, no, back when he started it, he had his first Kinko's was located in UC Santa Barbara, outside of UC Santa Barbara. And he goes, oh man, we used to have all kinds of stuff, research reports and this and that. I remember photocopying how to make Molotov cocktails for the college students, because this was during the anti-war movement. Like, yeah, he was photocopying it. He wasn't condoning it. He was just providing photocopies as a service. You can't go after somebody for that, right? So all we're doing is communicating the idea that I've seen that on TikTok.
Well,
and of course it's on TikTok. It must be true.
It must be true. You just sent out an email that has a bunch of people flipping out about a certain set of shocks that were shown and coming off of Fordyce and on our
are flipping out because nobody responded to me to that.
Well,
they're just turning around and calling you, because I didn't get any replies to the email, and I'm like, I guess nobody really cares.
No,
we just get texts. We get texts
text
going,
messages.
Hey, yeah, what's going on?
Everybody's on the owners club, so
yeah. So there's these certain black set of shocks that appeared.
Yes.
That we've been talking about. If you'd watch, look at that!
Wow. Those look fantastic.
And this is just
that's
like
just the reservoir.
This is a printed label from
gotcha.
from a this is actually comes on an inkjet printer is what made this, right? And that's just the reservoir. So
Yeah.
They are coming, guys. They are coming. And look,
They look
just
nice.
if you want to watch this video and you want to see just the look at this, like for instance, this is one of the end caps. Look at that finish. I don't know if you can, it's hard to see the finish.
Nice.
It
But
is
we've got
nice.
this-
And
We've got this beautiful infinity finish where every piece has been tumbled and then black hard coat anodized with
that's
this
pretty awesome.
beautiful, beautiful finish. And that's every part. I mean, look, this is the little dial that will end up ultimately have the etching on it for the 8 different positions, right?
Yeah.
That goes on top of here. It just goes click, 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 click.
You know, it's funny. You had sent me a little video. We were texting back and forth with another manufacturer's shock and whatnot, and I don't think people understand when something is. I don't know how to say this, and I don't know what really my thought is. So when there is a mass-produced product, even MetalCloak realizes that things have to be done a certain way. MetalCloak's always prided themselves on being able to manufacture stuff very well to a high degree of quality. And I don't, we look at a lot of other stuff and it's like, wow, that's amazing. Until you look at the real fine details of something, the cool thing, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I think the cool thing is that I'm thinking is that how every single little piece is done by a company that is very, very accessible and reachable when there are issues. And you can't, I'm sorry. I mean, I know a lot of guys at Rancho and the Tenneco guys and all that, but you can't really call Mr. Tenneco and say, hey, so that sleeve that's inside, like, I don't know that there's somebody that they can actually get to. Whereas I think with every part that MetalCloak does, just like the ball joints, there's constant revisions of making things better. And it's easy to do that when you're small enough yet big enough. You can make these really cool things without having to go through these catastrophic recall kind of programs.
Well, and it's like, okay, so let's use the ball joints because the ball joints have been a big issue because we came out with them and we're like, oh,
Right.
cool, here we go. Here's some ball joints. We created them and stuff. And then we were like, well, wait a second. These are incredibly popular. We can make them better. We can already make them better just in the manufacturing process because the manufacturing process alone is like, how can you make things more efficient? How can you do more and some of our early ball joints that we released, we weren't doing all the components in-house. Right, because we weren't necessarily great at all those components, or we didn't have the CNC capacity. So we're hiring another CNC shop nearby to do some of the work. Right. Well, we decided to do it all in house, and it actually combined with the idea of this shock project. So again, people may know the history. A couple of years ago at SEMA, there was a shock shown off that was like, "Oh wow, MetalCloak has reservoir shocks. When are those going to come?" And we thought we were ready to release a reservoir
Right.
shock,
Mm-hmm.
only to find out that the one we released, the same company that manufactures our current Rock Sports, which are amazing, they're a great price and a great shock, just couldn't do it right. And we're like, you know what? Why are we even doing that? So we went back to the drawing board and we designed from the ground up an incredible shock absorber with all kinds of great features and benefits, right? And we did it all in-house. Even the shafts are being done in-house. Everything about that shock is being done in-house. We have the CNC machines, multi-axis, multi-plane CNC machines that we've put in there, and we're doing all the components, and they're all being done. We're going to come out initially with the JL version, then we'll hit the JT, then we'll hit the JK, right? Boom, 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 boom. We're releasing these. They're going to be long travel. The idea of our shocks, our Rock Sports are already a long travel shock. There is no other shock sold for a 3.5-inch lift that has the kind of travel that say a Rock Sport does, right? So if we're going to come out with reservoir shocks, we have to meet those same specs. So what do? We did. They're 2.5-inch shocks. They're adjustable reservoir shocks. And some of the performance features and capabilities of them, I'm not even going to get into now. There's more to talk about over the next few weeks when we get ready to release them, are just incredibly innovative. And they just, from the minds of the engineers, the same gentleman who came up with the 6-pack shock, my partner, Doug, is the one who said, okay, screw it, dived into it and built an incredible reservoir shock. And so we're seeing great performance characteristics at it. It was been on Ford Ice. It's been on the Rubicon. It's been, we've been out and about. It's right now there's a set going cross country just to see how it does in big road trips on a 392 that's heading out and going up to Montana and doing a big cross country trip just for some vacation time. But we're going to see how it does, right? So all this last minute, these are production versions. We've already done a bunch of testing on them, but now we have production models, okay, making sure there's no issues in our production capabilities, right? But that out of that came the idea of the ball joint. We can do better. So we stopped production because you could keep going and keep going. Like, well, I really wish that these customers buying now would have Gen 2, right? So we're going to do. Now, here's what's happening. And this is unique to a company like MetalCloak. We're making our Gen 2, and it is even more incredible than our Gen 1. It's better in so many different ways. It's simpler in so many different ways, but has lost none of the features and benefits. But everybody who got a Gen 1 is going to be given a Gen 2.
Nice.
Cool.
We're not saying, oh, well, you got Gen 1. They're going to be given a Gen 2.
So totally not like Apple.
Totally not like Apple. Like, we're going to give them a Gen 2, and we're going to give them a credit to have the Gen 1s taken out and a Gen 2 put in.
Wow.
Because we only want the Gen 2s out there. We don't want the Gen 1s out there.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've got, and we thankfully in that short period of time, we sold a lot, but it was enough that we can go, whoa, stop. Let's stop production. Let's get these done. Let's make this new one. It took longer than we expected to get to this point. We sucked at a couple of months. It's been obviously like close to 6 months, but it doesn't matter. We've done. We'll have the new one. It gets released probably here in a couple of weeks. And then we're going to go out there and we'll take care of all of our Gen 1 customers. First with the JL is being released first. Then we'll tackle the JK release. And it's just going to be a much better ball joint. Something we're even more proud of than our first one that we came out with. So,
who,
but it's just
who
what we
does
can
that?
do.
Nobody does that.
Yeah.
Nobody does that. I mean, it's unfortunate.
We learned a lesson. We learned a lesson a long time ago with our TJ tie rod. We had released our TJ tie rod. It was incredibly popular. And there was some feedback on the fact that maybe we weren't doing enough to at the rod end at the Heim joint for safety capture, right? Maybe we weren't doing enough. So we thought, well, let's make it better. So we made it better. And at that time, I think we had sold like 250 of them. And it's been within a short period of time. This is years and years and years ago. We said, okay, so we went and took that little kit and that new kit, and we sent every one of those customers, all 250 of them, the upgraded kit at the rod end. So a replacement Heim, replacement bolt, and all the little things that we had put in there to capture it to make sure that it's even more safe at that end. No questions asked. Here you go. Send it to all of them. And it wasn't even a matter of, hey, we're calling you up. It's just, this is what we're going to do. Put it in there. It's great. But that's what we've always done. Whenever we've had a situation like that or a change like that or an upgrade like that, that is to us a critical upgrade, we'll go ahead and take care of the customers that have already existed. So I don't know. It's what we do. And we're excited about the shock. I mean, the JL shock is just going to be phenomenal. The performance characteristics has been great. The Gladiator will come out shortly after that. We just have to make adjustments. Obviously, the rear can't have the travel that the front has on a Gladiator. And then you have the JK will be next, right? And the beautiful thing about this Rock Sport Black product line, it's going to expand. I mean, that whole Rock Sport line is going to expand. Well, the JK, the TJ, beyond that, the Bronco. Yeah, I don't know where this can go, but we really expect it to be a great, great product line.
Well, again, coming from the perspective of the folks on the ground and knowing what we see on the CTI trailer all across the country and what we see in a variety of other vehicles on the trail, off the trail, it's always easy for us to be out in front, because I don't think that folks understand how much testing and how much stuff we see actually gets digested into stuff that gets manufactured. I mean, it's funny. I was having a conversation, I don't know, a week or so ago, and we were talking about the sensors in bumpers with new electronics with the JL, the JT, and how, yeah, everybody else just buries these sensors. They just, they don't get the holes are
Cutouts for
not
'em,
cut
yep.
out in the bumpers. It's just an easy way to manufacture something. You just don't put the holes in it, and then you don't use sensors anymore, which I think is unfortunate when we're
Mhm.
given all of this technology, yet nobody's taking advantage of it. So, yeah,
Well,
it's
the sensors are a funny thing because when we got into it, we made our own little housing, right?
right.
I remember a friend of ours in the industry was out
Yep.
there, and they were the first ones made their little housing. They came up and said, "Hey, we're selling these housings wholesale to all of our other guys." And it's like, really, how much? $10 a pop, like, is what they would have
Right.
sold us this housing to be able to hold in sensors. Like, so over $10. Well, that's great, but that $10 has to be sold back to you as a customer at $20, right?
Right.
If I want to make any money on it. And we got these things little made for, like, I don't know, quarters, whatever, bucks, super cheap. And so we have these sets of them, and you can do them, and they're just part of the kit, right? I don't know, but we did it ourselves. We did it our own way.
Right.
He came and said, "Yeah, well, we got to make our money back. We spent $100,000 on the tooling." I'm like, who the bleepity beep bleep bleep charged you $100,000 for that tooling, dude? Like,
Well,
Now,
and
of
that
course,
was
we know
and
the
that
guy,
was
and he's a bit of an exaggerator, but
that was along the lines of the conversation I had was, wow, do you know how much they want for those little inserts to go on the bumper? And I'm like, well, your problem is you're dealing with they.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sometimes it's nice when you have the ability to manufacture something that needs to be done. You can do it cheaper than they buying from
Right.
they all the time.
Well, you mentioned sensors, and we have the new LED taillights, right?
Right.
So with the new LED taillight systems, which I don't know if we've gotten a set out to you guys yet, but we'll get a set out to you. But it has. Do you have the Do you have the lane
LED.
assist? You have the LED package, but you have
Yes.
the lane assist. Okay.
Yes.
So lane assist is not included with our lights. That being said, there is a cavity inside. In fact, if you look at it from the outside, where the M is on the outside, on the inside, there is a cavity there where you could probably put that, right? And we'll do some testing on it, but we didn't design it for that. Well, people are coming back saying, well, until you do that, I'm not really interested in them. Oracle has done it. Well, I hate to tell you, but I've heard a few things from
They're
people,
crap.
like one of our own
Yeah.
guys here that has Oracle. It works on white Jeeps, doesn't work on colored Jeeps. Might be a little racist, but it literally, like, if there's a blue Jeep next to him, it won't see it, or a blue vehicle. I don't even say that. If there's a blue vehicle next to him, it doesn't work. If there's a white vehicle, it works, but it doesn't see colored
funny.
vehicles. And it's also at a weird angle. It doesn't go back at the same angle that Jeep put it at. It's put it at a weird angle. So yeah, Oracle said, here, you can put it there. But when we originally approached that, we said, well, what if we're wrong? We don't want to have the liability of giving somebody false information, right? So that's why I originally didn't put it in. And then just to come back, well, Jeep has the same thing. Like, the reality is that there is no liability to Jeep. If you get in an accident and you said, well, I used lane assist and it told me there wasn't a vehicle there, there's plenty of small print in your system that Jeep is not liable for the fact that you might get in an accident because you were using lane assist and you hit somebody, because you're still supposed to use your mirrors. You're still supposed to use normal driving techniques. It's lane assist, right? It's not lane
Yeah,
guidance.
not relying on the electronics to
Right. But Oracle said, fine, well, we'll put that in there. So they threw it in there, and it doesn't work for most people. It doesn't work properly. It doesn't work the way it's supposed to. Just kind of like when you put bumper sensors in, sometimes they work exactly where they are. Sometimes they've changed the things. Every once in a while, I go to put my rig in reverse, my JT, and it's like, oh, I got something behind me. No, I don't. It's just that all of a sudden that sensor is just a little tweak.
goes
Maybe
beep,
got
beep,
moved.
beep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beep, beep, beep. Or the great thing is, like, try to drive with your tailgate down.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
beep, beep. You should, like, does not like having your tailgate down.
Nope.
But I got a couch in there. What am I supposed to do? But yeah, so that's the thing. So we're actually working on how you can do it, and maybe there's little mods that people can do themselves before we decide to release an official version that accepts the lane assist. But there's a cavity there already for it. It's just a matter of how you want to put it in there, and you can do it yourself and put it in there. There'll be a 3M tape or something like that, and you can have lane assist. And it's an assist. It's one more little element that just makes things a little bit better for you.
Yeah, It's funny, this West Virginia trip, we had a variety of vehicles with us. We did have quite a few Jeeps, and we had XJs, we had Grand Cherokees, the WJs, we had some vans, and we had some Toyotas.
Wow.
And it's interesting how the variety of vehicles, when you start to go through an obstacle, how different lines can be.
True.
We had Cora and Eric from Torque Masters. They had a Toyota with them, as well as one of their Subarus. And the Subaru does amazing at a majority of trails, but it doesn't have that ground clearance thing. But as far as traction goes, those things can go anywhere. That's why you see so many of them in Colorado. And in the wintertime, they handle really well in the snow.
They just need drivers.
Yeah, you got to know how to drive it too. But it's a lot like the Bronco too. We didn't have any Broncos on our trip, but I think that there's just it's funny where I feel like the off-road industry is evolving. It is changing. Yes, we attend the majority of the Jeep events because we're a Jeep manufacturer. We're touching into some other areas now, and I feel like there's a lot of crossover. Of course, the people, guess what, guys? The Jeep people, well, the Toyota people and the van people, we're all very similar. We're all wanting to be outside. So again, I think that there's a lot of stuff to learn from, I don't know, other vehicles and how they deal with things, what they utilize. I mean, I can see from the overlanding perspective, there's a whole bunch of crossover, right? I mean, because a box is a box is a box. You can put that box on any number of rigs. It just may attach differently. And it's kind of interesting when you start talking about racks. Man, the Toyota guys, they have a plethora of racks, but I don't know that I've really seen a good one yet.
Yeah.
Whereas, you talk about adventure rack systems and our racks, well, obviously we're going to be a little bit biased, but it's because it works and because it's strong, and we don't have the issues that these erector set racks have. And it's kind of funny because when you talk about universality, all these erector set style of things, it initially looks very appealing until you realize that it's just a handful of nuts, bolts, and washers, and all these little pieces, panels, and yeah, you can bolt stuff all over the thing, but it's still a bunch of really flimsy, thin gauge metal. I don't know. I'm not a fan, and I don't know. It's stability wise something where when you have some real robust tubing to attach things to. I was kind of concerned about our 270 awning that we put on Jesse's rig, and with our these round clamps, right? So a bunch of weight, that round clamp we're gonna hit a bump and the clamp's gonna slide. And guys, that is just totally wrong. That doesn't happen, number one. And what's even more interesting is MetalCloak even went the extra distance. If you use the universal brackets to mount something, okay, so here's your round tube, you've got this extension out, half of that C can be the rail that goes across that holds your tent on. So it can't move. Not that it does. We don't have them mounted that way. We're using the full round clips around the bars, and that thing hasn't moved since we left the house 1,500 miles ago. But you can, if you're thinking it might move, that clamping force is extreme. And people think of round tubes, and yeah, it's not the old school way where things gonna rotate after you hit a bump and it's gonna flex. It just doesn't. So anyway.
Well, when it's properly designed, it doesn't. And I know that, like, when we first got some of the ARS inventory in, that we bought ARS, there was a few inventory items. One of it was one of their K rails that went up in the back. And I remember I mounted on the back of mine on the JK, I mounted my Daystar.
The tire, the
little fuel cans. Yeah, the cans. And I mounted a couple of those on and figured I'd just put it up there. Well, on that K rail, it just rotated that K rail down. Like, there was not enough, because when they actually went to try to clamp it down, you end up having, there was more material than there was a gap. So you didn't have enough
Right.
gap in there to clamp it properly, and you have to put the clamping force, right?
Yeah,
So
the clamp
properly
would
engineered, things
touch
work.
and be done. Yeah.
And it's like our new Uniclamp that's very close to coming out. It's a made in USA, by the way. You know, there's a lot of times little things, plastic things you get from companies and stuff are made overseas. Our Uniclamp is a made in USA plastic. It's, you know, there's some definite polymer things that the polymer is being used, right? But it is a little clamp, goes around a 2-inch tube. It'll sell for super cheap. You can have 4 of them. You got 8 of them. You can put a whole bunch of them on your rack. Super easy to use with a bunch of different adapters to be able to create a system that, for instance, takes place of the $160 mount that I'm using to hang my
Right.
axe with, right? We
Right.
thought it was dumb that we had these very expensive mounts for things like hanging a shovel or hanging an axe or hanging a utility. So we created this very inexpensive Uniclamp that will allow you to do that same thing. And it has the same, the interesting thing, it has the same kind of clamping force. We were just had a vehicle down in Baja, Danny's rig, that white Gladiator. I think it's named as Betty White. And it had a couple of the Uniclamps on there as samples. And it was holding, one of the Uniclamps was holding a Rotopack full of fuel. You imagine going down to Baja with that and not having
Oh,
any
yeah.
rotation on it, not having any
Yeah.
rotation. It was incredible. It was great.
Well, and we and like, you know, this 270 awning is about 75 pounds. It is almost the length of the Jeep. It is a very large 270 awning, and we're using 3 of the universal mounts that aren't, the other sides are not part of the crossbars like I was talking about, and that thing is suspended out off the side of the Jeep by, it's got to
Mhm.
be, it's probably about 10 inches, maybe
Mm.
8 inches. And that's a lot of weight sitting out on the edge of the Jeep. And I mean, we just ran through trees and rocks and mud for 4 days, and that thing never moved. Not even a little bit, because in the rear I have it just clearancing the rear bar of the ARS rack, and it is literally about a 16th of an inch from it. Well, when we finished, it's still about a 16th of an inch from it. So
Wow.
Yeah.
But you just ran through trees. Like that's
Oh.
mean. That's mean, man. Like running through trees.
Yeah, so many trees.
So many
Just
trees.
trees.
Yeah.
It's
Just
so
trees.
different. Again, it's so funny out here. You know, we cut down trees like, hey, if it's in your way, you cut that tree down. Or of course, in the West, it's you don't touch trees. Like, you can't cut down a tree.
Yeah, you know, it's California is one of those unique things where, and it's some areas, and I'm not sure if it's California statewide, it's something to look up, but it is illegal to cut down an oak tree, right? You have an oak tree in certain areas, and even if your oak tree is starting to go bad, you have to like go in, ask the county comes and takes a look at it and decides it's going to, well, we'll preemptively cut it down before it falls over. But yeah, you cannot, and the little volunteer oak trees that start popping up in your yard, you better yank those before they get to a certain point, or else you're like, oh yeah, no, that's an oak tree, son. You got to leave it there. Like, no, I don't think so. But yeah, it's there. Just, you don't touch the oak trees. Don't touch the oak trees.
Yeah, it's out here's a little different. It's so thick. Literally, you get 10 feet off the side of any given road. There are maple tree forests. I mean, it's crazy.
That's awesome.
There are walnut trees. Like, we have all kinds of trees. Like,
well, and you see that when you fly over, right? When you're flying out to the part of the country, you fly over and you just look down. And it's like, and it's
trees.
funny. Sacramento, city of trees. Yeah, maybe not as many as you might find in other parts of the country.
Mhm.
You know, so this was interesting using Gaia. Everybody knows we use Gaia on the majority of our trips to track where we're going, where we're headed, all that kind of stuff, plan routes. Even to go into Google Earth or Gaia, any kind of a satellite view, Google Maps, all of it. You look down in West Virginia,
Can't see.
you can't see any roads because the trees there's roads there. You have to actually not use the satellite view. You go back to just a road map and it'll show the road. But the satellite view, it looks like it's just impassable.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. So you got several days of Smoky Mountain Jeep Invasion. You're doing setup tomorrow. When does the actual event start? Is it Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Okay. Thursday, Friday,
Yeah.
Saturday. You got several hundred shirts you'll be giving away each day, and have those arrived yet?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
We've got them.
They're already
Yeah.
sorted for you. And then Chris comes on out there. So we're giving away lots of shirts. Get there early. The shirts go away early.
Get there early.
Early.
Yeah, you want to be the first one in to sweat in one of our shirts. I guarantee it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And we praise you. If you sweat in the shirts, that's a good thing. We'll give you a high five, a sweaty high five. But if you want a shirt, you have to come over, dance a jig, and give a high five.
That's right. Both.
Yeah.
That's right.
I want to see some dancing and some jigging and some high fiving.
That's right. That's right. Then if you figure out how to ship me deep fried devil's eggs, then I'll send you another shirt.
We'll send you some pictures.
Thank you. Thank you. Send me some pictures. That's right.
I'll
That's
make
right.
you some.
You're so nice. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, we have a bunch of help. We'll have Philip will be here. Philip Thorpe, who everybody knows is the back end guy on our forums and helper, and has been a lot on our adventures. Curtis will be out with his Jeep. I think he got all of his decals and graphics done. Yeah, this is going to be again, it's the busiest. This is the biggest show of the year that we do currently. Jeep Beach used to be as big, or if not bigger, but I'm kind of under the opinion these days that this event is probably the biggest Jeep event in the country. Pigeon Forge is a destination. It's really cool here. Not cool, it's really hot here, but it's really a neat place to be. It's very family friendly, all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's everything to do here. There's mountain coasters, there's putt-putt golf, there's go-kart tracks, there's everything for a kid that you can imagine. Outlet malls, shopping, good food, all of it. So Dollywood, of course. Yeah, there's a ton down here.
Gatlinburg is the bomb too.
It is pretty crazy driving through there for the first time. You see the big building that looks like a ship, and then the other building looks like it's been through an earthquake. It is very Disneyland-esque.
Oh, dinner shows from
pretty incredible. Pretty incredible.
For sure.
And yet, being out there when it was there, do the show, go back to the nice ice cold condo, because you're keeping it at like 66 degrees or something crazy low. And
just
then,
to keep the all you have to do is take the humidity out of a room, and it's very nice.
Yes. Amazing. All right, guys. Well, enjoy yourself out there. This has been another great episode of the Modern Jeeper Show. And make sure you get out there and visit and say hi, and come by and get your free shirt and be a part of it. And by the way, be a part of the fun of the event. I still remember the story we got from the police last year about the only arrests they had were a couple of guys that had gone over and decided to steal one of the mini statues that are along the road there. They stole the statue, they got caught on camera. The local police went over to knock on the door and found where they were staying at some Airbnb or VRBO location, knocked on the door, gave them the opportunity to turn it back in and just not make it a big deal and just play it to goofballs. They didn't admit anything. They wouldn't admit anything. They wouldn't admit anything. And then they finally said, fine, we're taking you in. Only to find out that the guys that had done it, of all the thousands and thousands of people out there that had done nothing wrong, the few guys that had done something stupid like steal a statue were, I think it was New Orleans police.
Yeah, they were police officers.
They were police officers. And there was a firefighter too. They were like first responders. And come on, guys. So it's an incredible event. Tons of awesome Jeepers out there. And then anything, you might have a ass hat or two. But hopefully see you out there. Thank you again. And you know how to get a hold of us. Matson@MetalCloak.com, Corey@MetalCloak.com, Jessy@MetalCloak.com. Find us at ModernJeeperAdventures.com. Find us at ModernJeeper.com. Find us at MetalCloak.com, AdventureAccess.com, etc., etc., etc. And we will see you on the trails.
Cheers.
See ya.